For the last few days, I've been using the Leica Q3. Let's see if it's worth that quite high price tag. To me, Leica's always meant luxury and quality, and that is absolutely the case with the Q3. Now, this camera is actually really well spec'd. Inside this full metal magnesium die-cast housing, we've got a 60.3 megapixel full frame backside illuminated CMOS sensor. On the front, we have a fixed 28mm f1.7 Summilux lens, and that is optically stabilized, and it has a built-in macro mode as well. One big change from the Q2 is it now has a tiltable LCD screen, so we can tilt up and we can tilt down. It means you can shoot from the hip. It's great for street photography. For some people, maybe they would have preferred to have kept that really sleek design here, the same on this side, but to be honest, I'd happily give that up for the screen. I think it's really practical. And it's also got a super nice viewfinder as well. It's a 5.76 million dot OLED viewfinder. I find it very, very comfortable to use. Maybe the only thing you could say is on a really, really bright day, there's no eye cup really at all. But I think we want to keep this compact, beautiful design. We can forgive it that. Although this isn't a dedicated video camera by any stretch of the imagination, it does have incredible video specs. I'm not going to read them all out because you will die of boredom, but it does have 8K, can shoot ProRes, L-Log, it's got an HDMI port and a USB-C port as well. And you can use that to connect things like portable chargers, gimbals, and external recorders. The AF stuck with me quite well. It drops out a few times but finds my eyes again pretty quickly, even with quite a bit of movement. It finds people in the crowd very easily, and you could just click to swap between subjects, which is pretty handy for street shooting. Normally when I'm reviewing a camera, I spend a lot of time on the tests first and then talk about the shooting experience, but I've already taken this to Kendal Mountain Festival. I went to a shoot in Dungeness with this, and I've been walking around today. And I think actually the shooting experience is one of the biggest, most major features of this camera. I was not expecting to like this, to be honest, and I bloody loved it. It is smooth, which is not normally my style. I don't normally like this really smooth, no grip style of camera. Absolutely loved it. Somewhere for me to put my pinky. I would say in the future, if I was to buy this, for example, I'd have a hot shoe thumb grip in there just to give me something when I'm walking around. And again, don't normally use a strap on a camera, but again, felt this was really comfy. The like the bit of velvet on the back of the strap, it just sits nicely on your shoulder. You can walk around with it easily. When I was hiking around Kendal with it, I just sort of like slung it over my back. It was really comfy to use. It is the first camera in a really, really long time that, although I always love photography, this is the first one in a really long time that I was like smiling while I was shooting, and it didn't really matter what was going on. I was just enjoying the process of taking the image. That was a massive thing for me. I absolutely loved it. And also, with the 28mm lens, I'm not a super confident street shooter. I wouldn't sort of be up in someone's face when I was shooting. And I think in some cases 28mm could feel too wide for street portraits, but because you have that 60 megapixel sensor, you have so much flexibility for cropping in post. The quality is so good, you can easily crop like by a lot. And 28mm then gives you, for example, when I was up in the Lake District, it gives you that width. If you're by a lake, if you're by a set of mountains, you want a nice, shot of the seafront today where the light was just beautiful, you have that width if you want something more landscape. So that flexibility is just excellent for me. And the best bit about this camera is when you get home and you can actually review your images. I loved editing these images, mainly because I had to do very little. I thought the colours the camera captured were lovely, the detail was amazing, and I could crop in and recompose the images where I wanted to because of the megapixels.
And if there was an image that struggled a little bit with contrast in light, I had a huge amount of dynamic range that was captured in those RAWs to play with, and bringing back highlights and shadow was just not a problem at all.
And what I've really noticed about the Q3 is the environment just doesn't matter with this camera. Like when you test a lot of cameras over a long period of time like I have, you get to know that some brands or some models prefer different environments or colours or white balances, whatever it is. With the Q3, I didn't find that it made any difference. Like Kendall was a grey, rainy day, and when I went up into the lakes and the sun came out, it was, warm, and then there was the sort of cold blues coming through. And today, again, it's been very, very varied. And in all of them, I love the colours. I love the look coming through. And I know that's a Leica thing. I know, people often say that with Leica. It's very true with the Q3. Obviously, totally subjective. Some people might hate it, but I personally think, from what I've seen, it's almost like chocolate, right? Might be the odd person who doesn't like it, but pretty much everyone does. It's a pretty safe bet, and I think in most cases, the colours coming out of this, everyone's going to be pretty happy with. One thing I would say is this is obviously completely unnecessary as a camera. I don't need this. I could have an interchangeable lens camera. I could have a lot more flexibility. I could own a whole setup. There are tough cameras out there, incredibly tough, well-built cameras. There's lots of different things available, and I could probably shoot everything that I have shot on this camera on those other bodies. But it is well-spec'd. It is incredibly tough. Like the outside is... I've been really careful with this because I don't want to scratch it up. Obviously, I want to keep it in really beautiful condition. But I think if I own one of these in a few years' time, it would be scratched and there'd be the odd dent, and I feel like it would still be working hard. Also, when I went to Kendall, it rained constantly, like it chucked it down. No problems at all. I didn't have one issue. I think I put it away once because I was scared. Nothing else happened with the camera. So it just felt like safe with me all the time. And I feel like, even though there are other cameras I could have been using, I wanted to use this. And even when I didn't have to be testing it, I just took it everywhere. If I was going down to breakfast, the camera came with me. And that makes a massive difference to whether you feel like you want a camera or not. And if you are the sort of shooter where you're doing like documentary stuff, or you're, properly traveling as a photographer or doing street, like maybe this becomes necessary. Either way, it is just lovely. Whilst we wait for the low light excitement to get going, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the design of this camera, or my thoughts on it. Now, the design of a Q3 is obviously important, right? The same as any Leica. It's beautiful, it's luxurious, but I also found it incredibly practical. So starting with the lens, very easy to feel your way out. Aperture ring, you've got the manual focus ring, again, very easy to discern, easy in gloves, and one of my personal favorites is a good lens hood. So this lens hood pushes in a little bit towards the lens. So even when I've been working in heavy rain, or quite a bit of salt spray earlier actually, no issues with that going onto the lens whatsoever. And it just makes you feel a bit better when you're in a crowd or whatever, like we're about to be. You can't really do anything. You can't really get to the front of that lens. So I'm really happy with that. Now, the camera design itself is obviously very minimalist. There's not much going on the back. The custom function buttons are very flat and nice. I like all of the design. I mean, that's why you buy a camera like this, I think. So, if you want more than that, you wouldn't buy a Q3. Now, on the bottom, we have our card slot. So we have a UHS-2 single SD card slot, and we have the battery compartment, which is delicious. There it is. Now, it's got a bit of the bodywork on the bottom of the battery, which I would imagine makes this disgustingly expensive to buy separately, but doesn't it look pretty? And it's very pleasing to do. It's also very lightweight, 743 grams. Do you know what? I say very lightweight. There's other cameras out there, compact cameras, that are obviously lighter, but this feels brilliant. So like when I've been walking around with this, I feel like I could have this for about 6 years and just take it everywhere and it would be safe and it would just keep working. Weather sealing is fantastic. I've used it in heavy, heavy rain. I've had no issues at all. Generally, I would say, although, yes, beautiful, yes, stylistically very lovely, The design of this is also very practical, and I'm a big fan of that. But right now, I need to go and test it in a very low-lit, big crowd. We're just heading down to the Burning of the Clocks Parade, which is winter solstice in Brighton. It looks quite good. So I'm on ISO 3200, I don't want to push it too far, and then I've dropped it down to like a 60th of a second. I've stuck with people AF, because obviously there's a lot of people in the parade, and I'm at minimum aperture, so 1.7, and we'll see how they come out.
Although I didn't find the IBIS to be much to write home about, it still allowed me to shoot down to around a 10th of a second pretty easily. I could push the ISO up without too many issues either, easily shooting between sort of 1600 and 3200 ISO. Above that was getting a little bit noisier, but I probably could have pushed it another couple of stops.
Well, I can safely say I absolutely love the Q3. It's a delight to use, the quality's great, and it is luxurious and everything a Leica should be. If you'd like to find out more, or you've got any questions for us, make sure to pop some comments down there. Let us know what you're thinking about the Q3, or if there's any other cameras that you'd like us to take a look at. Remember, you can trade in your kit, maybe find some great deals on our website, so check that out. But for now, a massive thank you for watching. I'm gonna go and get some more photos down the beach. Bye.